Welcome, everyone, to the Information's TITV. My name is Akash Pasricha. It is Tuesday, September 30th. We are all excited here at the Information because today is our AI Agenda Live conference, which is happening today in Times Square. Be sure to follow along our website for more coverage on that. We are also going to be bringing you the highlights from that event over the next few days, so stay tuned to this stream. Today on the show, we've got some exciting guests coming on. We are talking about the latest release of Claude Sonnet 4.5. We're going to be talking to some founders who have been testing out the model. And by the way, Vercel is coming on the show later. First, actually, we're coming on first to talk about their latest fundraise. We also have some of the latest reporting on XAI's org chart. And separately, we've got a great conversation planned for you with our friends at AWS. But before we get going, I want to highlight for you a big story that we published last night at The Information. The Information is first to report that OpenAI generated more than $4 billion in revenue in the first 6 months of 2025. And to put that number in context, that figure is more than the total revenue that the company generated in all of last year. Now, one thing to note here is that we know the company was recently generating $1 billion a month in revenue, so it is likely making good progress towards that $13 billion annual revenue target for the year. The story also has a lot of great details about where the company's cash burn is at, and so I highly recommend that you check that out. Okay, let's get to our first guest. Developer tools have changed significantly as a result of AI, and Vercel is one company that has gained a lot of traction as a result of that trend. The company raised $300 million today in a Series F funding round at a $9.3 billion valuation. And I want to bring on the company's Chief Operating Officer, Jeanne Grosser, to talk about the news. Jeanne, welcome to TITV. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Akash.
So I want to talk about the business more broadly you're in, but very quickly, what does Vercel do?
Well, we do a lot of things. So historically, we've been known for providing a front-end cloud. So basically, the best place to go and build full-stack front-end applications. And then about a year ago, or a little more, maybe 18 months, we released V0, which is a vibe coding application that many are using for prototyping and app building. And then underneath the hood of V0, we had to build a bunch of infrastructure to support an AI native application. You can't just get that stuff easily off the shelf these days. So in June, we released the AI Cloud, which is now the best place to go and build full stack agentic applications, whether that's for conversational agents or background agents. You can build them all on the AI Cloud.
Right. So AI coding, essentially, you're helping people do that task in much more automated ways with your technology. What are you going to do with the money?
We'll invest in all three of those areas. So a lot to do in building out the AI cloud. You can sort of think of our aspiration is to go become the AWS of AI, giving everybody off-the-shelf primitives that they need to build AI applications. We've recently seen a lot of traction in enterprise, so we'll be building out both enterprise product and the go-to-market org to support that. And then I think one of the things that's been incredible to see about AI is just how instantly global it is. So continuing to expand our global reach.
Right. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is there are so many AI coding tools out there. You know, we've got actually a couple other founders who are working on their own AI coding tools coming on the show in a minute. To talk about Claude Sonnet 4.5, which I want to get your thoughts on in a second, because I know you guys have been using it. But if we look at the AI coding landscape more broadly, I mean, how do you see this shaking out? Are you looking to buy other companies right now? Do you see consolidation happening? That's what I'm forecasting here very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a fragmented market. And I think as both the makers of V0, but also the infrastructure that goes underneath that, primarily we really want to support all of these applications getting developed. So Cursor runs a bunch of their agentic infrastructure on us. Many of the other vibe coding applications out there similarly are using our AI cloud. And in fact, we open sourced V0. So you can go, we actually enable the fragmentation. You can go and use what's under the hood of V0 to create your own.
Got it.
Near run, one of the things we'll probably see is actually the fragmentation is beneficial because people can go deep on specific types of use cases where you really want to fine tune the AI. That's one of the things with V0. We're deeply focused on React and Next.js. So, you know,
which is what?
So the Next.js is the top framework for building front-end applications. So if you're a developer writing code to build a front-end application, there's a decent chance you're going to be writing it in Next.js. And what we can do with V0 is actually we have a composite model. So we'll take a model like Sonnet,
Right.
but we have a fixer model that runs on top of it that catches all the places where Sonnet got it wrong, and adds all of our Next.js expertise to make it more likely that you can one-shot a prompt to an app, or build a really robust application that actually works.
Right. You've been using Claude's new 4.5 Sonnet?
Yes, we.
What's the review? We're gonna have a panel on it in a second, but we might as well ask you. How are you finding it?
Yeah, we often are working with a lot of the model providers before they actually publicly drop their model updates. So we've been working on with that one for a bit, and still think very highly of it. It's powering V0.
Right. And what's your take on the sort of discussion around the effectiveness of these models sort of plateauing? The idea that it's harder to make substantial improvements when the things are already quite good in some cases. Do you see that plateauing of the models?
So far, we're definitely seeing improvements with each version. I think one of the things you're seeing a lot of the last.
But is it as good? Is it as good? I mean, the margins must be shrinking here a bit.
Yeah, that's a good question. I probably have to get our V0 engineering team over to give you a more detailed answer on that one.
Right.
We have like a pretty robust eval process that we go through with each one of these model drops and ability to compare them to other models, et cetera.
Right.
But I do think one of the things you see a lot of the model providers do is now, focusing in specific areas. So obviously coding being one of those. But it seems like there probably are still returns for more area specific
Right. Right. You guys are one of the bigger coding companies. Are you looking to do acquisitions? Do you see them coming in the next 6 to 12 months?
Vercel has been highly acquisitive, typically, of smaller startups doing really interesting things. Most recently, we actually made a pretty significant acquisition in buying Nuxt, which is another open source front end framework. So we are always out there looking at things, whether it's a one person, open source developer, or folks with interesting functionality that we think we could add to the platform.
Right, right, and that is sort of the reason we talk about consolidation here is because you talk about the infrastructure that enables these coding tools. That's the business that you're in. You talk about the coding tools themselves. You talk about AI code review, right? I mean, we've had companies from all three buckets. I kind of see this as why not have a one vertically integrated entity that does it all? I mean, is that what Vercel wants to become?
That's how we describe ourselves, right? So you've got the framework in Next.js, which we build and maintain.
Right.
That you've got, the platform in all of Vercel's infrastructure that's specifically, built for front end and now agentic applications.
Right.
And then you have built into our platform a bunch of agentic capabilities. So exactly what you just said, code reviews, we're releasing the Vercel agent. And so it will do code reviews, and it does them quite well because it's doing them in the specific context of Next.js and code built for Vercel.
Right.
So you can imagine that we can be quite accurate and effective at that relative to more generic-based code reviews.
Right.
So I think in general, our view is being vertically integrated is real strength here and a differentiator of our platform. And that, the goal is basically to take agents across the entire platform. And so we're providing folks solutions rather than problems.
Right. Jeanne, before I let you go, I want to just take you back in time a little bit to your previous role at Stripe. You were at Stripe for more than 9 years. You were most recently Chief Business Officer. And the reason I want to ask you about some of your insights in Stripe land is because we saw OpenAI yesterday release this agentic checkout tool. I guess you can now check out with ChatGPT. And we've been really fascinated by the intersection of AI and commerce, which I imagine is something you were looking at very closely in your previous role. Indulge me here for a minute. Where do you think this is going? Because, I saw that last night, the feature, and it felt a little bit under what, I don't know that it was quite the agent that everyone imagined doing the purchases for, sorting through different options, deciding what the best option is. I mean, do you see this technology being a threat to something like Amazon, or how do you see that playing out?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it could, right? Like, I think right now you're probably going to want a human in the loop where you get to say, okay, I agree, agent, you did go find the thing I was looking for. But there are a lot of more basic, purchasing needs where sort of you as the human don't have a strong opinion. You just need the thing.
Hmm.
And arguably that's what Amazon's awesome for, among many things. But I could see that's probably where agentic commerce goes first, is things where you're highly unlikely to disagree with the agent,
Right.
Versus in other cases it teeing up and then
like toothpaste, like
yeah, exactly. You're welcome to go get Crest for me.
Right. But the more discretionary purchases, you need a human in the loop. What did you think of the release yesterday?
I have not gone into it in detail, although Vercel actually is also working with Stripe on a bunch of agentic commerce runs. So I will be spending Stripe tours today. So I think they went through it in depth at that event, and I will be watching the keynote later this evening.
And so what I mean, is Stripe you know what? I got so many questions for you on this. I'll tell you what. Why don't you come back on the show, a week today? Let's keep this conversation going, because I would love to ask you more about the agentic commerce front, and also what Vercel is doing with Stripe. Thank you so much, Jeanne, for coming on the show. That is Jeanne Grosser, the Chief Operating Officer at Vercel. Okay, well, we are marching on ahead to our next guest, folks. As we just mentioned, Anthropic released Claude Sonnet 4.5, and developers have quickly been running to try it out and see just how good it is. I want to bring on two more people who have been using the new model already to give us their early reactions. Lloyd is the CEO of Warp, and Andrew Filev is the CEO at Zencoder. Both those companies are AI coding software companies. Welcome to you both. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome to be here.
So I'll tell you what, I got a really open-ended question here, and it's, what are our initial reactions? So who wants to go first? Zach?
Sure. Initial reactions, very good. We march on as far as like the quality of these coding models improving. It's a significant improvement over the last generation of Sonnet models. It keeps what's good about them. It's fast, but it can also do sort of longer horizon reasoning tasks. It does a bunch of things really well. With multiple parallel tool calls. So overall, I'm impressed. Very good.
Andrew, what do you think?
It's an awesome model. And it does what great models have been doing recently, is they're taking something that works in the industry and they're training the model to do that. So if you think about the previous big splash, it was reasoning models. So they basically took their chain of thought technique that was popular in the industry and kind of blasted it out, right, at their LLM scale. And then what this model is doing, one of the things that, I don't know if people picked up on this, it is very good at context management, which is one of the most important things to get these agents do sizable tasks. So if you worked with any kind of professional AI-first engineer, they're getting really good at breaking down the big tasks into smaller ones,
right,
to manage context. And basically, my read from how this model behaves, how it operates, is that Anthropic took that paradigm and trained the model to do the same automatically. So this means that a lot of people who are not yet good at that skill, who did not go through this kind of a personal journey of discovering how to best use the models, how to do context management, now they can get it out of the box. They can just throw an idea at the model, and the model will automatically create the requirements document for them, the plan for them, and whatever. So it lowers the barrier for regular folks to get the most out of these models. And as a byproduct, another cool thing is when frontier labs train models to solve those things, because it's their general intelligence, they automatically pick up a lot of other things. One other big improvement is that Sonnet right now is becoming, in my opinion, Sonnet 4.5 is becoming as good at writing those plans as the previous generation of Opus 4.1, right? And Opus is 5 times more expensive than Sonnet. And I will take that 5 times cheaper price any day. So, and it's also faster, right? Because Sonnet is a smaller model.
Yeah.
So it operates faster, and that's awesome.
Zach, talk about the pricing here.
Yeah, so it's the same price as the last Sonnet model, as Andrew is saying, but it's better quality, and on a bunch of the benchmarks, it's as good as Opus, if not better. And Opus is 5 times more expensive. So from the perspective of offering value to people who are using it, this is like a
It's a huge,
significant
huge
step
step up. And
Yeah, it's awesome.
you know, we hear a lot about these benchmarks. You know, a lot of the readers of the information are highly technical people, but a lot of them
Yep.
also are people who may not have as much technical acumen as people coding. When they talk about the benchmarks, what exactly, in layman's terms, are you assessing it on? I mean, one thing is speed, I guess. Another is sort of accuracy. What else are we looking at?
So,
For
so
some, oh, sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
yeah, so for the benchmarks that are published, when labs assess it, they typically just assess their resolution rate. And there are different methodologies. We won't go into details, but they assess how frequently does the model solve the issue. Now, when we run benchmarks internally, we also look at cost and we also look at the speed. And so, for example, one of
Right.
our early insight is that their Sonnet 4.5 resolved the issues about 20-25% faster than Sonnet 4, which is, again, awesome for the real life. And you don't see it in the public benchmarks because they're all about just the high mark.
Right.
But internally, when you're evaluating those agents, whether it's enterprise or whether you're building products, you do need to look at, Akash, as you said, as like the whole picture, right? It's not just the resolution rate, but it's the speed, it's the cost, and everything else.
Zach, jump in here. Anything else you guys are looking at in terms of benchmarks?
The interesting thing about the latency is there's two ways of looking at it. So there's like, if you're sitting there using Sonnet, how long does it take for the tokens to stream back to you? And the Sonnet models are very, very fast. There's a second way of looking at it, which is like, how long does it take for the model to actually complete the task? And it's better on both of these. But one of the interesting things is like, we find that some of the reasoning models, like for instance, GPT-5, is slow to return the first token. It like spends a ton of time thinking, and you can see it thinking, but it actually completes the task faster.
Got
Those two pieces of latency are not exactly the same. Other than that, I agree with Andrew. It's like they're reporting resolution rate. We ran all the benchmarks on Sonnet 4.5 internally. It scores higher on SweetBench out of the box for us. It is definitely state of the art.
Zach, I want to stick with you for a second, Andrew. I'm coming back to you. You know, as we saw this in our last segment, we were talking to Vercel about sort of this discussion around model effectiveness sort of plateauing, and the idea that we made so many big jumps, right? It's now hard to make everything that much better every single time. Are you seeing sort of a plateauing in the efficacy of the models that you're using, Zach?
I think if you look at the jump from like 3.5 to 3.7 to 4 to 4.5, that I think it's a slightly smaller delta. I don't know what Andrew would think here, but when we were using, say, like Sonnet 3.7 and it went to 4, it was like, whoa, things that were not possible before are now the model can do.
Right.
I haven't spent quite enough time with 4.5 to know if it feels that same way. But it feels like we're getting a little bit closer to the edge. And I would say the limiting thing is starting to become more, does the model have the right context?
Okay.
And like, can it reason over like your big code base? Does it understand your intent? Does it have all the right tools? So all of that
Context basically for people,
Yeah.
who might not be coded, basically do they have access to the right data, essentially?
The right data, does it like understand how your organization works? There's all these other things that go into, say, great software engineering that is not just a question of like pure inference. And so that's a place where I think we're starting to, that's a little bit more the limiting factor at the moment in my mind.
Right. And so Andrew, I mean, it sounds like Zach is saying, hey, I mean, yeah, the efficacy of the model is one thing, but it's not actually the model now that is sort of the rate limiting step. It's like, how else do you build the other parts around the model to sort of get the most out of it? Is that the way you understand it?
To me, it's a multiplier. There's the model itself, and how good is the model, and then there's what we call harness, like how good is all the tooling and applications that use the model, and both their successes and their failures kind of multiply. So if you got bad model and bad harness, it's terrible, and then vice versa. If you got awesome model and awesome harness, it's great.
Right.
And then what happens is they both also move upstream. So the models start to do more of the job that harnesses did before, and they're getting trained on that. But then the harnesses are starting to get higher levels. So, for example, we started working on orchestration of multiple agents and whatever, and how do they pass over information? Like how do you manage that whole fleet, right? So it's all moving up, and from that perspective, I think it continues to level up. Just like human brain was probably pretty much the same as it was 20,000 years ago, but we as a civilization now are much more capable. And I think the same thing happens with the models and harnesses and kind of all the ecosystem.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we I know for myself, I got a little more Googling to do about some of these terms, but I want to thank you both for coming on. These models are coming fast and furious, and it's always great to get people on the ground using them to tell us how it is they are liking them. That is Zach from Warp and Andrew. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Let us get on to our next segment, folks. xAI has been a fascinating company to follow, especially with the latest acquisition of X, Elon Musk's social media platform, of course that is, and all of that has meant big changes for the company's org charts. Now, if you follow the information's coverage, you know that we love to geek out over companies' org charts over here. And this week, we published an exclusive look at what xAI's company structure currently looks like. I want to bring on Theo Wayt, who covers all things Elon Musk, to tell us more about what he's found. Theo, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You're dressed up today, man. You got the AI Agenda Live Summit. Look at that.
You there?
I'm wearing the same blazer, man. I wear the same 5 blazers over and over again. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, let's talk about xAI. You used to cover Amazon, okay? And look, Amazon, it's one of the biggest companies in the world, right? I'm sure they have a lot of org chart infrastructure in place. It's a conglomerate. You're now covering xAI, which I take the org chart must be, it looks so different. So what I want to know is, what were your observations from xAI and how do they differ from like a traditional tech company that we think of?
It's pretty refreshing covering xAI and working on the org chart compared to Amazon, I have to say, because at Amazon there's a lot of, agonizing over director versus VP versus L7 versus L5. Like there's so much hierarchy and so much terminology that just doesn't exist at xAI. A lot of times people don't even really have a formal title besides a member of technical staff. And it's just not a very hierarchical company in the same way, just largely by virtue of its size, but also because of Elon's management style. There are some people that report to Elon that have, hundreds of direct reports, or not direct reports, but hundreds of people under them. Other people that report directly to Elon that have 0, but are just, an engineer working on a project that he really cares about. And so he, wants to speak with them directly.
Right.
It's all very impromptu.
So, impromptu means people are getting promoted and people are getting demoted, I guess, very quickly. Let's talk about sort of who is in his inner circle right now. Who are the people that we should have on our radar for the xAI inner circle?
Sure. So the 2 most important research scientists, they call them engineers, but they're research scientists at xAI right now are Tony Wu and Guodong Zhang, who are former research scientists from Google who were promoted by Elon this year, kind of at the expense of some other co-founders of the company. But when Elon, pays a lot of close attention to one of his products, heads start to roll, and in this case, they came out on top.
And so these are people. I was looking at their terminology. These are people who are technically called members of the technical staff, right?
Yeah, that's right. But in reality, they're managers now.
Right. And what about people who may have recently been? You wrote about this guy Jimmy Ba. What do we need to know about him?
So he used to be in charge of the majority of the engineers at xAI, or at least a huge number of them. He kind of got demoted, it seems, over the summer when Elon took a lot of his responsibilities away, although he is still, in Elon direct report, and he's in charge of the enterprise business. And then there's another guy, Igor Babushkin, that left the company entirely a couple months ago after Elon also took some responsibilities away from him.
So with all of these changes happening, do we have any reporting on the culture of xAI? I imagine these are people that are really burning the midnight oil trying to make Elon Musk happy.
Yeah, it's incredibly intense based on everyone I've talked to. I mean, on the one hand, I don't think it's an industry you get into for work-life balance, but I do think there are also, some demands from Elon that are especially galling or intense compared to OpenAI or Meta. And when a company like OpenAI or Meta tries to poach these people and offers them, much larger paychecks, I think the money is probably a bigger consideration for them at that point, especially if they're like 10xing your pay or something like that.
Yeah. What about X? I mean, Linda Yaccarino left. We haven't heard anything about who's running X right now. Did you find anything about, interim leaders or sort of piecemeal solutions to leadership over there?
Right now we have a kind of TBD space for the CEO of X because there is not one, and it's unclear what the long-term plan there is. But, at the moment, there's this trio of executives, Monique Pintarelli, John Nitty, and Angela Zepeda, that are kind of traditional media and marketing types that joined under Yaccarino. And they're, running X for the most part at this point. But it really does feel like, a pretty secondary part of the company at this point compared to XAI. I just don't really get the sense that it's what Elon is spending his time obsessing over this year.
Right. Great. Well, Theo, look, thank you so much for coming on and talking XAI. I know that you're going to be moderating our robotics panel at AI Agenda Live this afternoon. I'm excited for that one. And we'll have you back on the show maybe to talk about that later on with our favorite robotics correspondent at The Information, Rocket Drew. I mean, he's also an encyclopedia. Thank you, Theo, for coming on. We appreciate it. See you this afternoon. Okay, our next segment is with our presenting partner, Amazon Web Services. There has been a lot of talk about AI agents lately, and one of the biggest moving targets is really what the right definition of an agent is, what things agents are good at, and more importantly, what they're not good for. To talk about that, I want to bring on Shaown Nandi, a director at AWS. He is also the former CIO of Dow Jones News Corp. I'm really excited to have him on. Shaown, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you.
It's good to see you again, Akash.
So we talked last time about the chief AI officer. Today, I want to talk about agents. And one of the things I want to get your help on is, look, we've talked a lot about agents on the show, and I've been struggling to sort of understand really what the difference is between sort of old school automation that we've, read so much about over the past decade, it seems. And now we have this new paradigm of agents. I mean, talk to me about how these are different and how you think about what an agent actually is.
Yeah, no, it's a really fun topic, actually. Let me start with sort of a formal definition from when AWS thinks about agents. We look at them as autonomous or semi-autonomous systems that can reason, plan, and act to accomplish goals. They're not just answering prompts, but they're executing tasks, adapting to context, and driving outcomes. And what helps is thinking about how they differentiate from all of the generative AI action we've been seeing for so long. And, generative AI, of course, generates content, text, codes, images. Agents are really a step change. They don't just create, they do things. Draft a business proposal, update a CRM system, schedule the next meeting, kick off the workflow without you doing all the clicking. And you asked sort of the difference between what we've seen in the past, robotic process automation, all those pieces. What I'll say is, if you think about the old follow concept, which was RPA, really, you had a rules-based engine and you had to sort of follow a pre-built path. It was very brittle. Of course, we've been seeing the assist for the last couple of years, co-pilot type activities, sort of predetermined goals. But now we're getting to collaboration. That's the goal-defined agent.
So we have that sort of definition of an agent. What are some ways that you've been helping customers work with agents, or some examples about how you've been using them in your own business?
Yeah, I mean, look, so many. I mean, you said own business. There's productivity, there's new product innovation with agentic, there's helping solve problems faster. That's not just about productivity. Amazon, we are doing a lot with agents, and we just announced enhanced seller agents. Now, seller agents are really in our marketplace, and this is not AWS, this is big Amazon retail. And you think about all the third-party sellers selling products on Amazon. We wanted to help them automate catalog management, do better pricing, have product descriptions. And we initially released a Gen AI-powered seller support tool that would create images or identify images and reformat text. Now it's actually helping them do tasks, do research, reason for them. And that's a huge productivity boom for all those people selling on Amazon. But it also, even more importantly, can improve quality, which turns to a better customer experience.
Right.
Now,
but you do have to. I just want to make sure I understand that you do have to prompt them, right? So I mean, how does it work?
yeah, it's not just magical, right? So you might prompt you to say, give us some initial up information, give us a sell sheet, give us some images, give us a link, give us some information. But it's going from simply sort of generating suggested copy to actually going and helping you research and interacting with you. It's a really much better experience. And, love to have people go out and see that. We've been writing blog posts about it. But of course, those who actually sell on Amazon, okay, most of us aren't selling on Amazon. They're actually using this. And this has to work at scale, Akash. That's the difference. We have millions, tens of millions of sellers.
Yeah.
Come on, third-party sellers. You can't just do this for one or two people. It has to be bulletproof. Right. I mean, that's sort of our case. I could tell you about a fun customer case.
Sure. Yeah. I'm always down for a good story.
So I'll tell you what. So ex-CIO here, you mentioned that.
Dow Jones, yeah.
Yep. Network outages, connectivity outages, all is a pain point. You know who it really matters for? One of my favorite sports, Formula One. So for those who follow Formula One, high-speed racing worldwide, happens everywhere. And you go from race to race. There's a race in Mexico. The next week, there's a race in Austin. A few weeks later, a race in Singapore. And they broadcast all these on channels like F1 TV. So when they have a network problem, it's disastrous, right? Like, you got to be able to broadcast all those cameras, all those angles.
Right.
The problem resolution during setup, when they're setting these sites up, it would sometimes take 15 engineering days to investigate why the setup wasn't coming. So to start way in advance, 3 weeks in advance. F1 built a really intelligent root cause analysis agent for networking outages at race sites. They connected multiple systems. They do natural language troubleshooting. It drove an 86% reduction in resolution time of issues. So triage time went down from 1 day to 20 minutes. And that's just incredible.
And so this is sort of the agent sort of finding the problems for you. I want to talk a little bit about how F1, decided to focus agents on that particular problem, because, it's really hard. I mean, you could apply agents to anything and everything seemingly, but there appear to be better use cases, better applications than others. How did they land on that particular problem?
So I'll give you these sort of pressures from both sides. Like, how do you select? How do you select what use case, what situation? It's when you need intelligent decision making. You need better automation, and you have complex dynamic situations. And network outages, while not always the most fun sounding thing, there's so many possible areas that could be coming from: physical fiber breaks, bad configuration. It's really complicated. It's really hard to process all that information. That's low hanging fruit for an agent. However, you're not probably going to use agents in the most high stakes, zero error tolerance situations yet. You're not going to use them, for example, to give real-time feedback to a driver on the cockpit. You're going to use sort of your classic sensors for that, right?
Right.
But the network outage, this was research and resolve. You already have a problem. You want to make it solved quicker. There's no risk being added by this. There's only risk reduction. And of course, there's still a human in the loop. The other element, and this was less true for F1, but this is for everyone listening, you have to sort of make sure you're organizationally ready, that you have the right partner to work with on building these, that you have a scalable infrastructure. And once you have that in place, you can experiment more broadly. You can go to production more broadly.
Yeah.
But F1 had selected us. They're working with us. Great for us. They already understood how to apply this. That was some of the mental model. I can go deeper on some of those situations.
I think that, I hear you on sort of the how much risk there is to implementing it and whether or not that makes sense. I hear you on the leadership piece. The other piece that we've been talking about a lot on the show is the ROI and what the business case is for agents. How do you sort of think about that? Is it all sort of cost savings and quantified in terms of time? Do you sort of say that, hey, this is doing the work of 10 full-time employees, and that's that? Like, how do you think about that?
I'll give you one example that's not cost savings based, and then we'll talk about cost, because most of your listeners are really worried about ROI and cost, right?
All of them. I think all of them.
The not cost one is Alexa Plus. You're going to see a ton of devices announcements this week from Amazon, really exciting things in the news, and Alexa Plus is the core of them. And that's really new product for us, right? It's customer experience. It's Alexa being able to do things that it's never been done before. It's been completely rebuilt. We're connecting LLMs with thousands of services. It's just new. product creation. But for most of us, it is what you mentioned. It's efficiency, it's speed, it's customer experience. And for the ROI, I'll tell you like the basic advice I give leaders all the time. Think big, start small. So like, don't get yourself in terms of what's possible.
Right.
But when you start with a scenario, pick something where you have a measurable outcome. So for a call center, a contact center, we have a great product set, Amazon Connect. And one of the things we look at when we're deploying Connect or any sort of call center, contact center experience is really around what are we looking to accomplish? Are we going to reduce supervisor escalations? You know, customers hate supervisor escalations. It sounds like bad experience, but it's actually expensive. Supervisors are hard. They cost a lot. So you have a defined metric. I want to bring escalations down by 35%, and it will result in X, this cost savings. Then you can look at the cost of the agentic solution. And I'll give you a hint. Build cost isn't a big deal lately. Like you can build these agents very quickly and easily.
So what ends up being the most expensive part then?
Running it. And by the way, people aren't stressed about running it yet because they deploy an agent. They're running it for like 20 agents, 10 agents, 5 people, right? Fine. But if they're successful, consumption is going to go through the roof. So we're spending lots of time saying to customers, build quickly, experiment quickly with those measurable metrics. But then let's work together on how to really make sure you've picked the right model. We just launched a whole stack of Wayt, aka open source models over the last several weeks. We have the latest Anthropic models announcing yesterday, running in Bedrock, Anthropic's 4.5 model. And picking across the different models for the one that makes sense for your use case. When you've built a really narrow agent, and I could go on for an hour about this, Akash, I won't, I promise. You might need a really simple model to answer that question fast and quickly. And that costs an incredibly different amount of money than a full reasoning model. That's why it's not like one model to solve them all.
Right. Last question before we let you go. You know, as it relates to agents, what are some of the technical challenges or the breakthroughs that still need to happen? You know, I'm talking about, you know, things that are high up on your list that if we could really just figure this one thing out, not just at Amazon as an industry, right? You know, this would really propel agents forward in terms of functionality. Explain what those are to us and try to keep it, you know, in layman's terms for us so we understand.
Yeah, of course. Look, I'll tell you what's amazing right now. We're all seeing the movie trailer. Like we're all seeing the art of the possible and getting super hyped up. And much of it is possible. It just needs attention and a way to run it resiliently. And I think one of the things that's really mattering is as you're building agents, how are they going to communicate with each other? How are they going to have the right authentication? Like we announced in preview a series of services, we call it Agent Core. There's a bunch of great open source solutions out there like Crew AI and LangChain that let you run agents at scale. But customers being able to do that easily, it sounds less hot to talk about evolution, but like you really want to drop an agent and know how it's going to talk to your neighboring agent using open source protocols like A to A, what authentication looks like. Having that all be set up and easy, that's pretty critical. And we put the groundwork in place, but like getting it to execute at scale. And the second part, I think you're going to laugh, but it's about us. It's getting the organizations educated and ready.
And getting them on board. Yeah. The leaders, just like you said, getting leaders to actually buy into the idea that, okay, this is how the business is going to run.
The tooling is so capable, Akash.
Right.
Even now, it's moving faster than we can keep up. So we haven't taken advantage of what's available today yet in most cases. Much less all the great things that are coming over the next 3 months that I can't wait to tell you about.
Great. Well, Shaown, I'm excited to have you on again to talk more about those things. It was a fascinating discussion about agents. Thank you again for the time. That is Shaown Nandi, a director at Amazon Web Services. And with that, folks, that does it for today's show. A reminder that we are live on this stream Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank Amazon Web Services, who is our presenting sponsor for this production. And I want to thank you for tuning in. We really do appreciate your viewership. I am already excited for our next show tomorrow. Again, we're going to talk about our AI Agenda Live Summit happening this afternoon. Stay tuned on our website for more coverage on that. And with that, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.